Welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So over the last couple years, we have been noticing Hedera's growth. We've been very vocal about it on this channel as well. And in a lot of these reports from some of these companies, we could really see that. Now, recently, I've been talking about the community growth, the ecosystem growth, the social growth. Hedera's name is now front and center. Everyone is going to know the Hedera name at some point in time. And in fact, it's going to have the same ring to it as Ethereum, for an example. If you talk to anyone outside of crypto and you mention crypto, they always talked about Bitcoin, obviously, but they also knew about Ethereum because Ethereum was making headlines everywhere. I also think that Hedera is going to be very similar. I think people are going to know the Hedera name simply because of the growth happening behind it. Now, in this recent report from Bitergia titled The State of Hedera and the Open Source Crypto Ecosystems in 2024, this is actually a very significant report because it provides us with a complete breakdown of Hedera, specifically the position that Hedera has within the broader open source crypto ecosystem, and actually assesses the dynamics of blockchain development and innovation. Now, when we actually open this, we are met with the first big update, and that is the benchmark against which Bitergia will be measuring the impact of Hedera's transition to an open governance model following the Coinbase donation to the Linux Foundation's Decentralized Trust Foundation and the forthcoming initial release of the Hero open source project. Within this, we do see the contributors around Hedera compared to some of the top projects. Obviously, Hedera having about 655 is nothing significant compared to like Ethereum that has 5.1K, but it's still at the top of the list of some of the top projects around this space, like XRP, Stellar, Aptos, Cardano, Sui, Polygon, Avalanche, etc. But here are the key highlights from the radar report, and I'll zoom in for you guys so that you can see. So interconnected versus independent development models. The report identifies two main approaches to building blockchain ecosystems: highly interconnected ecosystems like Ethereum, Avalanche, Polygon, and BNB Chain, which leverage shared technologies versus more independent development approaches seen in Hedera, Cardano, and XRP. Hedera's community and developer engagement. With over 655 contributors in 2024, Hedera remains a growing but less interconnected ecosystem, while the core technology development is largely driven by Hashgraph, LimeChain, and Envision blockchain solutions. Broader community engagement is flourishing in tolling and application development. Bridging crypto ecosystems. While some ecosystems like BNB Chain and Avalanche heavily depend on Ethereum's Geth, Hedera and Cardano operate with fewer cross-ecosystem connections. The report highlights how a small but growing number of developers are bridging these gaps. Key players driving development. Unlike some blockchain projects dominated by a single organization, Hedera has a more distributed development model with multiple companies contributing significantly to the code base. And the managing growth and sustainability, the analysis reveals that while Hedera's backlog growth is under control, continued attention is needed to ensure sustainability, especially in critical components like the consensus node and ledger. And then, of course, we have ROI of open source development, which is basically exactly what you think it is. It's basically the return on investment for open source contributions, particularly in tolling and application layers where community developers play a vital role in ecosystem growth. Now, within this full report, and I'll save you guys some time, we did see one big highlight, and that's this one. Big shout out to Sound of Freedom. We have breaking. A recent report by Bitergia revealed that a total of 43 organizations have contributed to the Hedera project on GitHub from January to December of 2024. Among them were some of the largest companies in the world, such as Microsoft, MasterCard, Airbnb, IBM, and Deloitte. And we could actually see all of those companies here, which is very significant. And we also have the report evaluation was peer-reviewed by Exponential Science. There are huge things happening in the background right now. There's no doubt about that. And yeah, this actually proves that because I've always stated that Microsoft is 100% working with Hedera. There's no way, because every single announcement that we have witnessed over the last couple years have included Microsoft. The first one with MTech, for an example. But now we could see a lot of those companies that are actually contributing. Even Consensus is also a big contributor here. So we could see that there is a lot of growth happening. There's a lot of moves being made, and this is very interesting. It's very interesting because we know how big Hedera has become, like I've said. Even more recently, we know that Equity Lab, in collaborations with NVIDIA and also Intel, developed verifiable compute, which is the world's first hardware-based solution to audit and govern AI workflows, leveraging Hedera Consensus Service to create an immutable ledger of AI computations for compatible NVIDIA GPUs and Intel CPUs. Now, they did repost this on the 25th. It did get a ton of views and engagement because this is definitely a huge move. So technically speaking, we could add those companies to this list, and when you put it into perspective with like the GC list and all of the companies that we know that are actually working with Hedera, I mean, it's stacked. It's absolutely stacked. But also, big shout out to Tokenizer, because we do see here, I don't exactly see other layer ones as direct competition to HBAR. While fundamentally they all fall under the infrastructure layer for DLT utility, Hedera is in quite a unique spot. Much of this comes from the Governance Council, the Hedera Consensus Service, enterprise applications. Just on the surface with the Governance Council and Hashgraph architecture, you can tell this is different. The ethos of Hedera isn't so much open network for all applications for users. While, of course, that aspect of Hedera is certainly there, that's not the main focus. From the council alone, you could tell this is much more purpose-built towards real-world DLT utility. And from some of their trademark applications, it just resonates that same message further. MTech use for CBDC development, Equity Labs partner with NVIDIA and Intel, Neuron contract with the UKCAA, Drop working with the FedNow and Truist Bank, and of course, that's just the start of the list. This isn't including other tools like the Stablecoin Studio, the Hedera Token Service, or their more recently launched Asset Tokenization Studio. And to top it all off, the entire codebase to Hedera is accessible under the Linux Foundation's Project Hero. This is a massive step forward given how significant the Linux Foundation is within the open source technology world. So what makes Hedera such a great fit? After all, enterprises continue flocking here year after year with new industry developments. I believe the formation of the Governance Council is the largest factor here. For the longest time, blockchain and digital assets were seen in quite a dark to gray area where skepticism was at an all-time high. And then all of a sudden, we see some of the biggest names in our world stepping into DLT via Hedera: Boeing, IBM, UCL, Aberdeen, and so many others. And it's not just the names to show for, but these names are the ones providing trust for the hash graph. All of a sudden, the skepticism of blockchain's decentralized trust nature was no longer something large institutions feared, but rather they saw it as a potential by leveraging distributed consensus backed by world leaders. This was no mere coincidence, and as we can see, many of these council members, including other external large names entities, began coming onto the hash graph. And today, we've got everything from governments, Fortune 500s, institutions across various industries, and more. The ecosystem isn't anything like 99% of layer 1 networks we see in the public crypto space. And as time goes on, I believe we continue to see Hedera separate itself from traditional layer 1s and operating as DLT infrastructure fit for real world industry purposes. And I completely agree. This is just purely the start for Hedera though. What we're seeing now is the early beginnings of the network effects taking off. This next decade should be quite exciting for all that comes to the hash graph. And I agree. Listen, everything that's happening around Hedera is extremely exciting. In fact, it's extremely impressive as well. I mean, over the last 4 years, like I said, Hedera went from pretty much nothing to being one of the biggest networks in the space. And not to mention some of the gains that have happened over the years as well for the ecosystem. I'm not just talking about price action here. I'm talking about the gains in terms of names added to the Hedera ecosystem, projects that actually, launched on Hedera like Galaxy. I mean, the growth here is very impressive. But also, we continue to see Hedera making major moves. For an example, this one over here, big shout out to Kevin Cage, we have HBAR and Smart Cities. Hedera and BIA Group are partnered and discussing use cases in the UAE and Middle East. DIDs plus compute plus AI equals valid use cases for smart cities, waste management, recycling and power, sewage treatment plus treated water for irrigation to create greenery around city. Construction, architectural firm is already appointed to design master plan for the city announced in next 2 months. Very cool. Excited to learn more. And yeah, here we have that announcement from the Hashgraph. This is Power Digital Identity for Sustainable Smart Cities. Again, this kind of goes into the same realm of what I just said with Australia, right? We go back to April of 2021. FPOS reveals plans to power Australian smart cities with blockchain tech. And guess who was tapped in there? It was, of course, Hedera. So when we think about what's actually happening around Hedera, Hedera's always been a big name. You just had to really kind of be a visionary a little bit. But here we have the full-on announcement. Check it out. It is a little bit of a longer video, but it's very, very in-depth on what's actually happening.
So for the smart city, you're looking at the whole BIA ecosystem will be concentrated there. What do I mean by that? So when we're looking at the construction, looking at the road base, we're looking at using road base coming from recycled rubberized asphalt from our tire recycling plant. When we're looking at some of the other road base, we're looking at the construction waste. So we're looking at using a lot of the recovered material and building the city. We've already appointed the architectural firm Zaha Hadid Architects. The same firm that designed our building is now designing the master plan. The master plan for the city is actually around the headquarters that you see here. So this will be announced in the next 2 months or so, the project. But we're also looking, okay, how can I power the city? So yes, building it, I'll use construction material. But how can I power it? I want it to be a net zero city. So now across the road is all my recycling facilities. So we have our waste to energy, has 30 megawatts. We're now building phase 2, another 30 megawatts. And keep in mind, 30 megawatts is enough to power 20,000 homes. So now we're looking at another plant. Also, our landfill is located there. That's going to have 120 megawatts of power. So we'll be able to power the city. Also across the road is the sewage treatment plant, as well as the industrial wastewater treatment plant. So we'll be able to take treated water and use it for irrigation. So to create the greenery and landscaping around the city from treated water, power from renewable energy, construction from recyclable material, and then we're looking at, okay, we'll power all our EV chargers that we actually provide to ensure the mobility is in place. We're looking at how to use AI to create a better quality of life in the city. So this city will have retail component, will have boulevards, parks. It will be a fully self-sustainable city and a model of how a city of the future could look like. It's more of a town than a city, but we call it a city because it's going to have approximately 2,000 units. A mixed-use development. It's going to have some office space. So it's an exciting project. And to be able to work on such a project and try to imagine with the partners we're working with, we are really imagining what that future would look like with all that's happening around us in terms of technology, and the generations that are being brought up in this new age, they think differently. The ones that were brought up in the internet age and now in the AI age. So we're trying to imagine how would they live and how would they, move around the city. And we're trying to imagine that we're also in parallel building a twin city, a twin digital city for this. So we even imagine, okay, should we have digital identities, so decentralized digital identities for every resident of the city, and what value would that person get from having that identity? And this is where blockchain comes into place. So we're studying, and this is where our discussions also with Hedera are coming into place. We're studying these decentralized digital identities. What services can we provide? And in parallel, building that metaverse was a thing a few years ago, but we do feel with how the speed of compute and AI that there's going to be a lot of valid use cases coming up, and so we're building for that now. We're trying to be future ready of these kids that were raised in Minecraft and living in these digital world with their friends. When they start working and start living in their homes, that's the environment that they're used to. So we're trying to imagine and trying to figure it out. We don't have the solution, but we're trying to get the city future ready.
So again, when we think about what's happening here, this is all based around Hedera. Hedera and HBAR are at the forefront of all of these huge moves, yet nobody even cares to actually look into HBAR. Nobody cares to look into what Hedera is doing. This is why I've always stated that Hedera is so overlooked in this space, but everyone's going to know the Hedera name. I mean, over the last 4 years, we've witnessed Hedera become a huge name in the space where people can no longer ignore the Hedera name. And that's just going to continue to happen. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because I'm on free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.